I fell in love with real-time strategy games back in the day of StarCraft, Dark Reign and Total Annihilation, although I curiously missed Command & Conquer. I was a bit of a turtler, having fun building up my defences and a large force that would crush the enemy under my boot. Star Wars hasn't had a lot of RTS games though. Rebellion was released in '98, Force Commander in 2000, and Galactic Battlegrounds in 2001. But on attempted playthroughs, Rebellion was far too complex, Force Commander never ran right on my PC, and I felt the Age of Empires engine in Galactic Battlegrounds just didn't suit Star Wars. Then along came Empire at War. This 2006 title took a different path in gameplay from more established RTS games. I enjoyed my first playthrough years ago. I wonder if I'll feel the same after I replay it for this episode of Star Wars Playtime. I played a fair few RTS games early on, but I didn't understand them, and I really didn't have the patience for them. It wasn't until I started playing StarCraft II Wings of Liberty that I got serious about it. Empire at War was from a time before I really knew how to play RTSs properly, but I do remember having a lot of fun with how resources are generated and building the units on the overworld. I would build up massive armies and just crush everything. I still have my original copy of Empire at War, and with a little bit of fiddling I was able to get it working on my new computer. I did have to run it in compatibility mode, and for some reason my monitors had to be on the same resolution, despite one being 4K and 32 inch and the other one being 27 inch and not 4K. Let's get into the game. Empire at War is set just before A New Hope, but doesn't really have much story. There's a Rebel and Imperial campaign that loosely follows the events in the lead up to the first Death Star being destroyed, or not in the case of the Imperial campaign, and the story missions push that along. The interesting thing to me about Empire at War is how resources and units are generated. Traditional RTSs have you start a mission with some basic stuff, you build your resources and units and lose them when the mission ends. This game has something of an overworld map, with planets that are aligned as ally, enemy or neutral, and your resources are generated by taking control of planets. Over time, more credits are generated for you to spend on building units. Each planet has spots for building space and land units, along with a number of slots for buildings and space station, the number of which differs from planet to planet. The level of your space station dictates what spacecraft you can build, and what buildings you have allow you to build different land-based units. This means that you can build a massive army and slowly move across the map, only limited by the population cap, which is controlled by the number of planets you occupy. It also makes things pretty easy. When you come across a non-mission planet, you move your fleet into orbit to challenge defenders. If you want to fight it out, you can, but you also get an auto-resolve option, where the game plays it out for you and tells you the results. This will usually end up with higher losses than if you played it out yourself, but when battles can go for 10 minutes or more, it saves a lot of time just to build up your force and let auto-resolve decide their fate. You can then move your land army in and do the same, but once again if you've got a big enough army, it's quicker to take the auto-resolve results and take control of the planet. Even in story missions where you can't use auto-resolve, you can still take your full army. Missions themselves have a population cap, so you can't use all your units at once, but you can call on those units as reinforcements should you find yourself losing a few. Being able to do that means that it will only be a matter of time before any battle is yours. Units have strengths and weaknesses against other units, which you can see by hovering your mouse over a unit. But because of being able to bring massive armies, you can brute force your way through with little thought about tactics. I played through the Imperial campaign first in one go, and found the game speed was very slow. It made a lot of the missions drag. There are speed controls in game, but they didn't seem to work. When I went back the next day for the Rebel campaign, the game was much faster, so I think the issues were more related to an old PC game on a new PC rather than the game itself. While I'm on the subject of glitches, there were a couple of issues with the cutscenes. In both campaigns, the opening crawl didn't play, even though the music did, and the ending cutscenes had stuttering music, although the speech audio was fine. I don't know whether those are issues with the game itself or just because the game is old. The missions themselves were fine for the most part, except for a couple. In the Imperial campaign, there was a mission that used an interdictor to stop an enemy escaping to hyperspace. You had to keep an ability active to trap them, but that same ability stopped the unit from moving, making it a sitting duck. After half a dozen attempts that all ended in the first minute, I had to drop the difficulty back to easy, and even then it still was hard work. And in the last Imperial mission, you take control of the Death Star and blow up 5 planets with rebel activity. As well as being non-canon, and you know how important story is to me, it took way too long. Each planet had 90 seconds to wait for the Death Star to blow it up, which is short, but that didn't end the mission. You still had to defeat all the enemy units. It wasn't hard, just time consuming, and enemies just kept spawning in and dragging out a mission that had already been won. Now imagine doing that 5 times, with the Death Star moving at half the speed of regular units and taking long to get between the planets. And the planets that you have to blow up spread across the entire map. I only had one issue with a mission on the Rebel campaign, and it was the first mission. I got the cutscene for the end, but it didn't end. I had to retreat and start again, but I think this is probably more of an old game thing rather than a genuine complaint about the game. Empire at War is a different sort of strategy game. Playing on the overworld presents an unusual way of generating resources and units, and the combat is still okay if a bit dated. I also understand now why RTSs tend to shy away from using overworld unit generation and resource generation. It's hard to balance your game when you can bring a crapload of units to the fight and just demolish everything. The best thing I can say about Empire at War is that it was okay. It was fun to jump into for a while, but certain missions just dragged and really took the enjoyment out of it. With that in mind, I give Empire at War my Star Wars playtime rating of Return to Tatooine. Oh damn, the Death Star moves so slow.
Tactical battle imminent.
You presume too much. I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Bring the Death Star in range of the planet and show this pitiful insurgency the true power of this fully functional battle station.
Enemy base will be in range in 5 seconds.
Firepower.
Let's go Death Star.
Enemy base in range.
What?
Can you say fire? I want to say fire. I pulled the lever. I pulled the lever. I want to see it fire. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh yeah. And there it goes. Goodbye, planet.